You have clicked that pile of audio gold known as the Half-Assed Podcast. And now, here's a person to say something.
Special Super Drunk Edition! So, we did put together a, what is this exact? Cartoon characters pre-1975?
Yes, sir.
That's the parameters.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So top 5 and also OLI would be one of those.
Yep.
But before we get to OLI, oh goddamn Cottonmouth, hang on. My tongue's just slapping at the roof of my mouth. It's ridiculous. Okay.
More water.
Van Gundy. Okay. I feel better. Before we get to OLI, special mention, I said this earlier, Captain Caveman. He was going to go very high on my board, but a cursory Google search said he does not fit our parameters.
And Son.
Oh, no shit.
Captain Caveman.
Caveman. Oh,
and Son.
Yeah. Oh, no shit. God, I didn't remember that.
Hey, youngster, knock that shit off. You're gonna hang with me, you got to bring it.
I just remember the catchphrase. And now the Half-Assed Podcast Super Drunk Edition proudly presents Top 5 Cartoon Characters Pre-1975. All right, let's head to number 5. Speaking of Hanna-Barbera, I will kick us off with a classic from the Hair Bear Bunch, Square Bear, coming in at number 5.
Good call. Explain who Hair Bear might be for those of us who are older than thee.
Voiced by William Calloway, apparently. He was kind of the bucket hat stoner subversive character, from the 70s, but they didn't come out and say that he was stoned, but he talked like this. So it was
Scooby-Doo. If you want to,
it was
throw that down.
Implications. So that was my number 5 was Square Bear.
Excellent. Number 5 for me is Henry Hawk, the little baby chicken hawk on Looney Tunes who always tried to eat Foghorn Leghorn's leg.
Oh, love that guy.
I'm a chicken hawk. I'm going to eat you.
He was badass. That guy had a pair.
He did. Cojones were his jam for sure.
Not a single fuck given. Oh, I didn't know that was his name. That's delightful. I feel great.
Number 4 for you then.
All right, number 4. I'm sticking in the Hanna-Barbera universe. It's Space Ghost. Voiced by Gary Owens. Oh, in just a classic voiceover guy. And then, of course, in the 90s, George Lowe takes over and just hits it out of the park with Space Ghost Coast to Coast. Epic character.
The Space Ghost before the Sharks came in was more my jam, right? Space Ghost in his scooter with his junior assistant was where it was at for me. So the original.
I loved the classic. Yeah, and when it came back out in the 90s, like I said, just sealed the deal, hit it into the stratosphere. Great.
How many
character.
OLIs may I have is my question for you.
As many as you want. Okay. It's our world.
Super then. Excellent.
Let's revel in it.
Number 4, going back to the Looney Tunes era. Ralph and Sam, the dogs who would beat the shit out of Wile E. Coyote.
Oh, the dogs. Man, Ralph and Sam.
And every 12 hours, they changed shifts. Morning, Sam. Morning, Ralph. Morning, Sam. Morning, Ralph.
Yes! I started overthinking this list. And then once I kind of pulled back and looked big picture, and I was like, you know what? Number 3 is Yosemite Sam. Absolute. Rootin' tootin'. Exactly. My youth, all I wanted to hear was, hates that fucking rabbit. I wanted that.
Never dropped the F-bomb. I'm pretty sure.
No, I wanted it so bad though, because you could just, the frustration in Sam, I could feel it.
Yep.
Voiced by Mel Blanc. I forgot to throw that in.
Mel Blanc did all the Looney Tunes for all the years.
Which I said, absolutely amazing. My list is really based a lot on the voice talent, and Mel Blanc, like you said, everybody. All right, sorry.
Number 3, Jerry Mouse, produced by Fred Quimby.
Sure.
You smack each other with the pipes and the rakes, and Tom, Jerry, the cat. And my favorite one of all time is when they got along and would do the orchestras in New York. The cat would play and the mouse would dance. It was amazing.
Tom and Jerry is a blind spot.
Jerry Mouse was my number 3.
Jerry. Oh, like I said, I try not to overthink it because I try to get cute. But I'm going to come back. Like you said, your producer, the way they do it, like Tex Avery immediately comes to mind with a style. Yeah, the Auga eyeballs. Like there's a way it's drawn and animated that you feel. I get what you're saying with that pick. Spot on. And in that vein of not overthinking it, I went with number 2, Shaggy from the original Scooby-Doo.
Yoink.
Like, wow, Scoob.
That was Casey Kasem.
By Casey Kasem. Thank you. Exactly where I'm going. Like the voice talent on this list, that's so money because long distance
today's secret word is jonesing.
And she wrote, "Dear Casey," on the American Top 40. Like Casey, that was my youth. Like Sunday night, hearing who's finishing in the top. Like I took that like I'm going to school tomorrow. Who was the top 5? I know. I listened all the way through. I should have been asleep, but damn it, Casey Kasem was still fucking talking, so I'm listening.
Yep. Very good. Well, my number 2 continues in the Fred Quimby era of 1950s animation. Uncle Pecos from Tom and Jerry, who had the infamous Crambone episode, wherein he would sing a country song, and when his string would break, he would reach the TV screen and grab Tom's whiskers and re-string his guitar. Crambone.
Oh, shit. I am unfamiliar with this.
Google that shit. You will love
it. It sounds delightful. Man, like I said, Tom and Jerry's a blind spot for me. I've seen them, but I'm not an aficionado like I was with Looney Tunes. So let me get to my number 1 then. Because after a list comprised of just absolutely immaculate voice talent, guys that just deliver, even multiple people doing the same voice and one person doing a million other voices, we rest at number 1 with Wile E. Coyote. After a list of that talent, that coyote can accomplish with an expression and a sign what the best voice talent can maybe get. Like, he is so good. He is able to do so many things. Like, I'm trying to picture Charlie Chaplin delivering to that next generation.
The operas with Bugs Bunny were quintessentially amazing. I learned about Flight of the Valkyries and so many other things.
Killed a wabbit, killed a wabbit.
Yeah.
So good.
Excellent. Well, then, we shall continue along and talk about my number 1 favorite pre-1975 cartoon character. It was Jerry Mouse's baby cousin, who always fought the French. Alouette, 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 And he would also always come and show up at Jerry's house, and Jerry would have to raise him every time. He was either as a duck or as a mouse or whatever else, and he would always take on the cats and the mouses, and they would take them on and say, "Alouetta!" And he had a little saber, little Three Musketeers saber, and a me. And he's absolutely amazing. He had no name that I can find, but he was produced also by Fred Quimby, who was the quintessential producer for Tom and Jerry from 1951 through 1958. Okay. The classic Tom and Jerry's that we can find today on the internet.
Right.
Fred Quimby hated Tom and Jerry. He hated the idea of it. He hated everything about cartoons. And yet he was the producer at Warner Brothers. Because remember, if you watch the old stuff, you can see they will show Academy Award winner 1954, 1957, 1958. Like they won Academy Awards for these shows back in the day.
And he's got like total disdain for the format.
He hates it all. Children are terrible, and I hate them all. And so for him to come and go was amazing. But here's the thing. As a small child, I grew up relatively isolated, only child, no parents that had interest in things other than working. And I learned to read by watching cartoons. So I learned cursive by the card they would throw out there at the end of the show, produced by Fred with a Quimby.
Oh, that giant
the giant cursive Q. Quimby.
Loved it. Yep.
And dun 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 dun. And I would always show up. I would quit doing my chores, run in and watch the show. And that's where I learned about Tom and Jerry. And they are my number one favorite, by far, end all, be all, kicked ass, killed it all, cartoons. And I will take it to my grave.
I learned how to tell time by cartoons. That's my mom said when I knew when Woody Woodpecker came on that school was over and my brothers and sisters would be coming home soon. So it was like, 3:00, Woody Woodpecker, like the good old TV schedule.
Yeah, the TV schedule was good. The good old days were not that good.
No, 3 channels and well, you could get into that UHF shit too, but there was nothing up there. Yeah. Well, what was ever up there that you wanted to watch?
We only had wrestling. Like I learned my WWF stuff on UHF. And we had a Saturday show that some local doofus tried to do a comedian show about a cheesy horror movie or a sci-fi movie. So I saw all my Godzilla. My Superman and all my Greatest American Hero on UHF.
Okay. Through the prism of some jackass making fun of it?
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. Can I believe it's me? Flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be? Believe it or not, it's just me. Also, believe it or not, George isn't at home. Leave a message at the beep.
I do know that.
Yeah. So there we have our top 5 cartoons, and I could go for days on cartoons. They really created my life. Like
I'm the same, man. I mean, when I was a kid, I also like the Carol Burnett show. They had that cartoon at the end of like her sweeping. I would skip the entire show, but when the credits rolled, I would come in for that part and like, I don't watch the cartoon and then, all right, I'm out. Pink Panther, like they would have the animation at the beginning. Soon as that was over and the movie started, see y'all later. I'm going to go play Magoo. Records. Mr. Magoo, classic.
Oh, hello there. I'm gonna let's walk around the state there and do some things. Haha, we are returned.
That was a very gratifying urination.
I think the Stones thing was kind of okay.
You got your top 5?
I do.
I got my top 5. We might as well hammer through these. And now the Half-Assed Podcast Super Drunk Edition proudly presents Top 5 Rolling Stones Songs.
All right, number 5 Rolling Stones song of all time. I'm going to liken it to my childhood. It was a CBS show called Tour of Duty. And the opening song for that show was Painted Black by the Rolling Stones.
Oh, classic. We got here. I got arrows, messing with my shit. Looks like at number 5, according to this arrow, I've gone with You Can't Always Get What You Want. I didn't want to be too on the nose on these, but it's just kind of undeniable.
I saw her today at the reception with a glass of wine in her hand. My favorite part is in Live the Pharmacy with Mr. Jimmy. Those are good lyrics, right? They're good lyrics and they're good slow blues licks.
Undeniable.
Yeah. I had to throw in Honky Tonk Woman. Much like Shelter, you just don't get the lyrics until you listen to them. You know, Honky Tonk Woman. And so that's my number 4. It's a weak number 4, but it's in the top 5, so I'll live with it.
For my number 4, I went with one that I'm actually more particular to as a cover, Dead Flowers. Guns N' Roses covered that live on a Japanese import in the mid-90s.
Okay.
It's Chef's Kiss. Of course, Axl took some liberties with the lyrics, but it was big fan.
Dead Flowers. Okay. I think I love covers more than original songs by the bands I love. Like, I love a band because of their sound. And then when they put their sound on a cover, I just dig that so much.
It depends. I'm hit and miss with them. It's got to be, and some songs just can't be covered.
No, that's fair.
Like, I heard somebody did like, I don't know, it was like a reggae version of Wish You Were Here. And I started pulling the hair out of my head. I literally, I left the party. I went home. I was like, I'm fucking out of here. And that was the end of that.
That's fair.
I can feel the blood pressure rise when I just mention it. Where did we leave? We leave on 3?
I'm on to my number 3. Yes. This is a song, again, most of my Rolling Stone songs are viscerally related to my life. So I was in college and I was placed in a dormitory on the soccer floor and I got to meet my first Colombian nationals. These young guys were so good at soccer and their English was not even a secondary language. They had Spanish, of course, was their native tongue. They spoke French. They spoke something else, and then English, right? But they always played "Hey You, Get Off My Cloud" by the Rolling Stones. And so for me, it's always been one of my favorite songs. Because it's like, "Hey, you, get off of my cloud," you know. And it's of course been, you know, that cadence has been stolen by cheerleaders and other things over the years.
A million times, yeah.
But that one was one of my favorite ones because it was just really legitimately sincere for people who are trying to get their way in the world. That was my first exposure to not being white, not being from where you were, and being, you know, ambitious and talented and working hard. Because I grew up in total world of, you know, separate but equal was what my parents thought would be the right thing to happen in the world.
Wow. Yeah, that would be abrupt. For number 3, I landed on this absolutely delicious country spoof of Faraway Eyes.
Oh,
absolutely love that track. I remember laughing at a couple of the lines, but the music still holds together. It's not just a throwaway track.
Right.
It's well done. The joke sits. It's Chef's Kiss.
No, that's a great option. There were a ton of songs I didn't pick that were, you know, bluesy, amazingly well produced songs. But again, because I was trying to commit to a visceral feel or reality, I'll also go back to 11th grade composition. I took a creative writing class, and we had to do songs that moved us and also had interesting things. And the example who the teacher had, who I thought was the coolest teacher ever, but I'm a 10th grader in rural Ohio. This teacher rolls out, Mr. Gilder was his name. He's got to be dead by now.
Right.
But, he rolls out this song. He says, "Hey, this is a group. They're called the Rolling Stones. Also, hey kids, listen to the words. Don't listen to the music. Sympathy for the Devil." That's my number 2. And to this day, I think about Anesthesia, screaming in pain. And I think about the Duke and his ministers. And it's just such a great allegory for, well, one, history, but also the allegory of pushing through the world and fighting the fights that happen your way. So that's my number 2. And it's really, really good. And I'll listen to it a lot.
I'm almost hindered by the scope of my familiarity with their catalog, but if the last one I picked was kind of a deep cut, the next one is going the other direction. Wild Horses, just amazing. Another one that I've heard covered well, but the original stands so good.
Yeah.
So every aspect.
It's funny to me that the Wild Horses strikes me as an Eagles song, not a Rolling Stones song.
Really? Yeah.
That was more for their jam than the Stones.
Superior version, or
just
just like the familiar
fantastic guitar, mellow singing. It kind of just fit for me. It's always fit the Eagles better, even though I don't know that they've ever really done a strong cover of it or anything else. But
yeah, that does seem like their wheelhouse.
Yeah. So for me, I always loved the reckless Rolling Stones. Like that was my kind of enjoyment of them. As we made Yeti talk about, if the Beatles were buttoned down and enjoyable, then the Rolling Stones were the ones who were causing problems.
Yeah, the hair all unfurled about, all willy-nilly. Like, oh.
Well, his hair unfurled willy-nilly, I have a thing about that. You might have not noticed, but
dude. I used to, man.
Back when Long Ron was around.
Yeah, Long Ron had hair. He had the little dreadies. So long ago.
So the number 1 song, we've hit around it all night, was Yeti's number 5. It was your number 4. You Can't Always Get What You Want is literally, in my opinion, the greatest Rolling Stones song because it combines everything they have. Strong songwriting, plus decent music, plus coverability. And like I said, if you haven't seen Hot Tuna or Rusted Root play this song, you're not doing yourself justice because it's great. It's absolutely fantastic.
Papa John preach. I see you, brother.
Yeah. So that's where I live out. We can do our top 5 90s rap songs later.
Oh, wow. I could dig into that too. But before we get to that, I'll close out number 1. Man, just the guitar tone, the simple yet effective guitar line on it. Beast of Burden absolutely hammers me somewhere right here in the chest cavity every single time it comes on.
Also in the plums.
Oh, it does. It's that guitar. Oh, there's a rattle to it.
I'll never be.
Oh, yeah, I feel it.
But their appropriation of all the music that I loved from that era is one thing why I love the Rolling Stones. Like I'll take the Stones and I'll take Pink Floyd over anything. And then in third place, of course, is always for me Zeppelin. But then you move 2 years forward, and then it becomes Queen, Queen of Nothing Else. So it's really interesting to watch how that comes together. But yes, absolutely. I love the Rolling Stones. I really like the Beatles. Make sure that's in the podcast. You can put that as the introduction. I love the Beatles, and yet they weren't. I can't give them all the credit that other people want to. Right? That's where I'm at.
I have an odd relationship with the Beatles. I guess I compare Sgt. Pepper's to Bill Hicks.
Oh,
goes with comedy.
Yeah.
It's if you listen to Bill Hicks, you say, "So what? This is what everybody does." And you're like, "Yeah, it's what everybody does now." But before Bill Hicks did that shit, that wasn't what everybody did. Sgt. Pepper's is the same way, but you hear it and you're like, big fucking deal.
Did you ever have to watch the Yellow Submarine cartoon on ABC After School Special?
No, I have the movie on DVD, but I have never seen that.
Yeah, that was an after school special that I had to watch when I came home from my little class.
No way.
Yeah, it was Yellow Submarine, and then it morphed into the a advertisement for Sgt. Pepper. But yes.
What was the after school? Don't take too many hits of the acid, kids. Like
we all live in it. It was like literally
the benefits of living in a yellow submarine. Like what?
Yeah, don't live in a submarine and don't be a naval officer because it's YMCA. Plus, also don't be gay. I think is what it's supposed to be.
Right. Yeah, and you won't like to be confined in a submarine if you eat all that acid. It's going to be very restrictive. You're probably going to panic. Don't do those things together. Yeah. That's probably what the lesson was.
Yeah. But we could also do our favorite cartoons, pre-1960. We do our favorite cartoons, post 1975 and pre-South Park.
Oh.
Wow. You got to cut it because I can't do BoJack Horseman. I can't do all that sort of stuff that you guys have out there in the world. It's not my jam.
BoJack,
Family Guy, not my thing.
BoJack got me right in the feelings. That was painful. Yeah. I had quite a reckoning when I went through BoJack Horseman. I wound up in therapy. It was. Why is a cartoon horse making me question everything about my life? This is a problem.